All right, guys, let's talk 1-point perspective. So on your little brainstorming sheet that you did, I kind of showed you an example here of a 1-point perspective city. So basically some things to note. Things that are closer to you, like this building, appear larger than things that are farther away from you, like this building. This building appears larger, this building appears smaller. That's how your brain processes three-dimensional information. Your brain sees things that are smaller and reads, okay, this is far away from me. Your brain sees things that are larger and reads, okay, this is close to me. And that is why this road, even though it's a rectangular road, appears to be getting smaller and coming to a point at the back, because the back of the road is so much farther away from you than the front of the road. Again, this is not something somebody invented. This is just how your brain processes information, and we're learning how to put that process on paper. So, a couple of other things to look at. Do you see how this line is pointing upwards, whereas this line is pointing downwards? Even though in real life they're parallel. We can see on this side of the building, these lines are parallel. But because it's getting smaller as it gets farther away, all of these horizontal lines have to point to this imaginary little dot right here where the road ends. This is called the vanishing point. This is where all of your horizontal lines, so this is a horizontal line, this is a horizontal line, all of these are horizontal lines. This is the point where they disappear. They all have to point to the vanishing point. Even see here, the top of this building points to the vanishing point because it's a horizontal line. Every horizontal line has to point to the vanishing point unless it's horizontal this way. But if it's horizontal running like away from you, it has to point to the vanishing point. So let's get started so I can kind of show you some stuff, and I think it'll make more sense. So the first thing you need to do is put in your horizon line. The horizon line is the line that separates the ground from the sky. So you can put it anywhere. You can put it higher or lower. I'm going to go somewhere near-ish the center. I'm going to make my line a little bit darker so it reads better on camera. You'll want to keep yours ideally kind of light, so that way you can erase it when your buildings kind of overlap it. And then I'm going to put a dot. If you want to put it directly in the center of your paper, that would be at 6 inches, but you don't have to put it directly in the center, because sometimes in life you're standing off to the side when you're looking at cities. But I'm going to put it directly in the center just for the purposes of demonstration. So in this one, you've got a road coming directly down the center. I'm going to show you one where the road is a little bit off center, just to make things a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to go about like here. So what I'm doing is I'm lining up my ruler with the dot and kind of just eyeballing how I want my road to look. The main thing to keep in mind is that it has to connect to the dot. It has to connect to this vanishing point. Everything always has to connect to the vanishing point. So I'm gonna go about like here to make one side of the road, about here to make the other side of the road, something like that. So you can see how this is more off center than this. This is coming directly down the middle. Again, you're welcome to do this. I just thought it might be a little bit more interesting to show you this. Okay, so I've got my road, and now I need to add in some buildings. Also, just before I do that, you see how this one has a little crossroads? You could totally do that too. You would put in a crossword roads by figuring out where you want it to be, and then just like putting in a line here, then moving it up a little bit. I'm putting in a line here. So if you wanted to do that, you totally could. I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it simple for this demonstration. So I'm going to put in a building. I don't want my building to be directly on the road. Like, I want there to be a little bit of space between the road and the building so I can put in a sidewalk or some grass or trees or something, I don't know. So I don't want it directly on the road, so I'm going to space it out from the road a little bit and put it maybe about like right here. So I'm going to draw the side of the building first, the side that's facing me. The front of the building is what's going to be facing the road. I'm going to draw the side of the building first. And I'm going to do that just by putting in a rectangle. Okay, there's my rectangle to be the side of my building. And I'm going to erase the part of the horizon line that is inside my building. This is why I said you should keep your horizon line light. Next thing I need to do is draw the front of the building that's facing the road. So I'm going to do that by connecting these outer two corners, the corners that are facing the road. I'm not going to worry about these corners back here because that's going to make the interior of the building, which we're not interested in for this project. So I'm going to connect these outer corners to the vanishing point, just like this. This is what you're going to do for every single building. Okay, so there you have the side of the building. I know it doesn't look like much. I know it looks like a triangle. Bear with me. So now I need to create the other side to like kind of cut off the front. So I'm just gonna put in a vertical line. This line has to be perfectly vertical. If it goes slanted, it's gonna look real weird. Okay, so there's the other side. See, I said it was gonna look weird if it's slanted, and I slanted it. Let's try that again. Even just like the slightest little bit, make it look weird. Okay, so now I'm gonna erase the rest of my horizon line that's inside, and I'm gonna erase these little lines that I don't need anymore. So now I have my building here. I think this line was slanted too. I think that's why it looks funky. Let's fix that real quick. Oh yeah, that's why it looked weird. Always really want to make sure those lines are straight because they can just mess you all up. Okay, so I have a building. I have something that I could add doors and windows and stuff like that to. I would recommend going ahead and putting in all of your buildings as just basic block shapes before you go in and start adding doors and windows and stuff like that. So I'm gonna do a couple more buildings over here just really quickly. All right, I'm gonna show you a quick little hack for making buildings that are like lined up with each other. So if I wanted to put another building beside this one with maybe just like a little alleyway in between, and I wanted the front of this building to line up with the front of this building, I would use these lines that I've already got to make my next building. So I would put in another vertical line right here. Okay, and then I would erase this. Remember I said I want this to be like a little alleyway between the buildings. Same thing up here. Okay, and then instead of drawing a full rectangle over here, because that's what you would normally do, right? You would normally draw a rectangle. All I have to do now is just make a little line that goes back like this until it touches my other building. And the same thing right here. And then I'm going to put another line here to be the other side of the front. And then I can erase. You can see I've got two buildings where the fronts of them are lined up with each other, but there's a little gap in between them. So now let's say, what if I've got this building in, but I realize I'm running out of space and I need more buildings, and I want a building to be like kind of in front of this building a little bit. You can still totally do that. You're just gonna have to end up erasing a little bit of this building, which is why I say it's best to get all of your buildings in as blocks and then do the details. So I'm gonna make this one a little bit closer to the road maybe, because buildings are not always lined up perfectly. Okay, so there's my rectangle, and now I'm going to erase all of this mess that's inside here. And again, this is why you wouldn't really want to go ahead and put doors and windows and stuff on, because you may end up erasing it and then you're just going to be sad about it. Okay, so then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to connect over here. I am going to have to be aware of how close this other building is and not make this one go to where it's like built on top of the other building. So I'm going to make this one a pretty skinny building. And I know this looks like an insanely skinny building, and it's really not. It's because it is so close to the vanishing point. You will see that the closer your building is to the vanishing point, the less you see of the front of it. So these that are further away, you can see more of the front. So if it's gonna bother you to have them be really thin little slivers like this, you might scoot them farther away from the vanishing point and give yourself a little bit more room to work, because these do tend to get really crowded in here. So if you want something that looks more like this side of my road does, scoot your buildings further away from the vanishing point when you start. Start with rectangles that are maybe here instead of here. That's just something to keep in mind. I wanted to show you what it looked like both ways. Okay, I'm gonna do one more building. And I'm gonna do it over here, and I'm gonna show you something, because some of you are gonna want to do this, and some of you are gonna do it on accident. And either way, you need to know what to do. So I'm gonna do my rectangle like this. And you will notice that this time I did not bring the rectangle above the horizon line. This means that for whatever reason, I can see the top of the building. Maybe I'm standing on a hill and looking down at a city. Maybe this is actually not a building, but a cardboard box sitting on the ground. I don't know. It's kind of large to be a cardboard box. But for whatever reason, I can see the top of this shape because it is below the horizon line. If you want to avoid this, if you want to make sure that all of your buildings are above the horizon line, you can just draw them all above the horizon line, but you can also lower your horizon line if you want to. Just means you have kind of less surface area to work with. But if this happens, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to connect your corners. But you're also going to connect this other top corner. So if this happens to you and you want to see the top of a building, you're just going to connect your other corner over here. And then you're going to do the same thing, put in a vertical line, but then you're also going to put in a horizontal line. Okay, and so then you have a little building that you can see the top of, which is actually fine. Like I say, like maybe you are like standing on a hill or you're on a balcony looking out at a city. There's nothing wrong with this. That's just what it is. So I'm going to show you a few ways to add details. I'm going to show them over here on this side. Since it's a little bit farther from the dot, it's just a little bit easier to see. Like I say, I would not strongly recommend this situation. You can do it. I've seen it done well. But I would recommend probably spacing them out from the vanishing point a little bit more. So to make a door, let's say I'm going to have a door over here. Pretty simple. Just some vertical lines and a horizontal line. Like that. If I want to do a door over here, the top of the door needs to connect to the vanishing point. So you still keep vertical lines. Vertical lines always stay vertical. Vertical lines never slant in one point perspective. Always vertical. So I'm going to put in some vertical lines. And then I'm going to connect those vertical lines using the vanishing point. And that's how I make a door on that same. Same thing for windows. If you want to make a window over here, I usually just like to kind of put in some lines and then erase whatever isn't necessary. Like that, and then you have a window. You can also do like this building did and have kind of like these lines to indicate like kind of like skyscraper windows. Each of these points to the vanishing point. You just tilt your ruler a little bit more each time. So you start off sloping down, then by the time you get down here to the bottom, you're sloping up. If you want to make like a little sidewalk coming from the road into your door here, these would need to stay horizontal. Don't slant them or it will look like your sidewalks are falling off your paper. Like that. Some people want to put a little sidewalk running alongside the road, which is totally fine. You can do that. So to make my sidewalk, I'm connecting to my vanishing point. I'm adding another little line here. And then this is where people mess it up. They start going in and just like putting like these random diagonal lines. Never random diagonal lines. Never, ever, ever. Always horizontal, vertical, or vanishing point. Vertical doesn't work here, right? That doesn't look like a sidewalk line. Vanishing point obviously won't work because you just use vanishing point to make this side. So it has to be horizontal. So you would go in and put some little horizontal lines in like that to make the lines of your sidewalk. Always, always, always. Vertical, vanishing point, horizontal. No random diagonals. That's the most important thing to keep in mind. So you're going to start by sketching out your city, just getting all of the shapes in there. Then once you have them, go in and refine things, add things. Some things you're just gonna have to figure out for yourself. I can't show you every single kind of architecture that you could possibly run into. You may have to just apply this, the horizontal, vertical, vanishing point method to figure out what you wanna draw. Also find some photos for reference, kind of figure out find a photo from the right angle, look and see, okay, where is this line going and stuff like that. If you have any questions though, send me an email. I'll be happy to help you as best as I can.